and welcome to the Everything Canada podcast with Olivia Stark Immigration Consulting Inc. And my name is Joel Parwani. I am an engineering student, and I'm introducing to you and bringing you the first ever podcast with Olivia Stark herself. Hello, Olivia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are
Hi,
you?
hi, hi. How are you? I'm
Uh,
fine.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So, we're going to be recording our first podcast ever, and we're going to be talking to people who are listening, people who have subscribed, and we're going to be telling them stuff that is, there are immigrant stories, but they're not related to like technical immigrant stuff. So, we're not going to get into like express entry paperwork and how to calculate your CRS scores. This podcast is going to be about immigrants and their journeys. And as we know that you are an immigrant yourself. So today we're going to talk about you, talk about your journey. And I know you've done an introduction here a little bit and on the Instagram as well, but we want to do it proper and detailed since it's a podcast. So tell a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your background, who is Olivia Stark, and what does she do?
All right. Hello, everyone. And I am Olivia Stark, obviously, and I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Basically, my job is to assist people with their immigration to Canada, choose strategies, fill out forms, collect documents, and just make sure that their immigration journey goes smoothly. I am myself an immigrant, and I came to Canada in 2008 as a permanent resident. I am originally from Ukraine, and we came together as a family. And basically, that's it.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So you immigrated in 2008. That's been a while. You must be like situated to Canada fully. Let's talk a little bit about yourself as a PR, right? So let's talk about your educational background. What have you studied in, whether it was back in Ukraine or in Canada?
Both, actually.
Wow.
Actually, both. So in Ukraine, I graduated from the university linguistics, majoring in linguistics and English. And I worked as a university professor as well. For a couple of years. And then before I immigrated, I also did quite a lot of interpreting, both consecutive and simultaneous, and I loved it. And then when we came to Canada, I did my master's in linguistics, only this time it was applied linguistics, because in my country, the approach to this discipline is more theoretical. So basically, it counts as a master's degree from Ukraine as well, because our education was 5 years, not 4. So that's basically is master's from my country. And also I got my master's from York University here in Canada.
Nice. That's awesome. So you have done a double master's, if my
Yeah,
math is that what it's called? Is
yeah.
that how it's referred to? That's awesome. So like again, studying in Ukraine, obviously studying in your own country and studying in a different country is there are very different things, right? So because a lot of people who immigrate, they study back home and each country has their own systems and ways of doing it. And then when you come to a different country like Canada, they have their own systems. So did you experience something like that?
Completely different. Wallet, completely different. Absolutely nothing in common. Absolutely nothing in common. Masters in my country and masters here, it's completely different. So I had to learn on the fly how different that was. So in my country, it's a very formal education. You sit, you listen to lectures, and then you take notes, and then you write paper, you go to the library. Oh, come on, those were those times, right? You actually went to the library and you actually went through the wall of small drawers and you actually looked, yes, dinosaur time, right? But well, what are you going to do? And yeah, and basically it was pretty boring. I have to be honest with you. Even though I do love linguistics and I do love research, absolutely. I could spend hours doing that, but it was pretty boring. So I was kind of expecting more or less the same here. But from the very first day, first of all, the groups were very small. There were no classes, no lectures. We basically didn't have any lectures. Masters was basically articles based. We read many articles, we discussed, and of course, we wrote a lot of papers. That was the same. Papers were written, some of them and many of them, and it was very intense, but I enjoyed every single moment of it because it was much more personable and just very different approach, very different. Loved it.
That's great. That's great. So, like, in terms of like since you said there are some basics that carry over from a, just education in general overall, like in different countries, but there's things that are different. So, it depends on the degree and it depends on who's moving and what are they studying and how different it is from what they study back home. But how did you cope up with that? Like if there was a difference in understanding, how did you cope up with that?
Okay, so basically, I didn't have any issues with language, obviously, because kind of I didn't.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference was in the writing, right? So the paper writing, the structure, the what was expected, what kind of layout, formatting, citations, and overall the structure of the whole paper was absolutely completely different. I had to learn on the fly. So basically, I took one paper from a friend. She was very kind to share for me from completely different major. And I basically sat down and analyzed that paper. That's your introduction, that's your thesis, that's your paragraph structure. And from there, I went on. I remember handing in my first assignment and me at 30 something, shaking in my heels. I was so nervous for that feedback. I was shaking and I thought, oh my God, back to class again. I cannot believe this. And my friend was asking, are you nervous? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I got this. But inside I had butterflies. And when I got the paper back, oh my God, 96%, I was jumping, crying. I was so happy. I'm like, yes, I can do it. But yeah, it took a lot of analyzing and a lot of basically structuring. That was the biggest change, the biggest challenge, really. Other
That's
than that,
Wow. That's great. That's great. The structuring, the analyzing, that's really important. And that's something, if there's students listening, that you should know that no matter how old you are, you're always going to be stressed before you hand in an assignment. So
more
that
so,
doesn't,
more so. The older you get, the more stressed you get.
yeah, maybe because like if you're used to it, right? Like if you're handing in an assignment, like I do over 15 assignments a semester easily, right? So yeah.
I mean, Joel, I used to mark people's assignments. I used to be that professor.
Fair, fair.
No, no, it doesn't make sense. No. And here I am on the other end. It's like, oh, I can't believe this. But I just got to love it. Absolutely.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And I think that's really important because like education is not easy, but it becomes slightly easier if you care about what you're studying, right? I think,
Oh, absolutely. You gotta love it. You gotta love it because the pressure is on.
yeah,
It's intense. And I did 2-year masters within year and a half. So basically I didn't want to do for 2 years. So I had a choice to take more courses with every session so that I could do faster. Because immigrants, they need faster. They need to achieve because we've got places to go, we've got
yeah,
life to establish. And everything like 2 years, oh my God, it's so long. And I did do that. And that meant that it was relentless. The assignments were relentless. It was like nonstop. We would read around 100 articles per week.
wow,
It was
wow.
it was a lot. It was a lot. But yeah, if I didn't love what I was studying, I would probably have quit without even looking back.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
I just loved everything language related.
yeah, there you go, right? And that's a lot of people, they need to understand that when you want to move here on student visa, we think of it as like one of the easiest ways to move. And we only categorize easy because it's easier relatively to get the visa. But that's where the journey starts. You have to start studying. You have to like you can only work 20 hours. Like that pressure is like just pick a degree that you actually care about. Right, right. Like that's
It's true.
if we could
It's
give a
true
message,
100%.
yeah, 100%. So from degree to work, right? Let's talk about work because obviously, like you said, you went from grading papers to actually handing in papers, right? But like I feel like every immigrant's journey uh, has a very difficult work life associated with it. It doesn't have to be, but chances are there is. So how has your work life been? How did it start when you moved here as an immigrant? And how has it changed over the period of time?
I'm no different from any immigrant. I'm just exactly the same. So strangely enough, I was coming to Canada with perfect English, and I thought, next day I will find a job, literally. Well, within a week, within a month. What the job was going to be, I had no idea. I really didn't, right? Did I think that somebody would hire me as a teacher? No, absolutely not. But I kind of like thought maybe office work, whatever. I don't think that I had a very clear idea what the job was going to be. So I started looking for some kind of clerk job, office job, whatnot. Nothing, no response, nothing whatsoever, right? So there's family, there's child, there's family, there's bills to pay. So what do? And I did what was the easiest. I went to the mall and handed out my resumes. Again, guys, please remember it was 2008, right? Not that much was sent by email. Okay. Yeah, so I printed out my resumes, and basically I went to Sherwood Gardens, and I went into the stores that I kind of liked.
Yeah.
Because that looks pretty cool. I'm gonna go in there. So I went in and I handed in my resumes, and that was it basically. And nothing happened. And then I got a call from Laura, manager of Laura Canada. It's pretty funky store, nice clothes. I mean, I enjoyed working there, and I got called for an interview, and that's how I got my first job. And that was it. And then during that time, I applied for my master's, and I got accepted for my master's. So basically, I quit.
Yeah, there you go. So a lot of like immigrants when they come here, and this is again, you could add to this how it is in Ukraine, but in India, the perception is always, oh, what's the point that you're moving for a better life, but you're like,
Same.
you're doing works that like jobs that you don't have to do here, right? But that's the point. Like you have to start your journey, right? In a country where you live, like if I lived in India and I was 23 years old and I had four jobs in Indian experience that I have right now in Canadian experience, I can get a job in places that I'd like to work, right? But to get those four experiences, it's hard as well. So in any country, when you come to a new country, that's what you have to do. You need Canadian experience, right? Whether it's Laura for you or Tim Hortons for me, where I did my first job, you have to get that, right? And you have to start somewhere where it's an entry level job, right? Because there's someone in Canada who can vouch for you. Right.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think a lot of people do not take this factor into consideration when they're immigrating, because I have been talking to many, many fellow immigrants, and loss of social status,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Loss of social status. It's not so much the language. It's not so much that the culture is that different. Our culture is not that different from Canadian culture. Sure, there are some basic differences, but not that much. It's Europe. Come on. But the truth is that the loss of social status for people who are, not students, right? Not 19, 20 years old, those who already had jobs, positions, and so on. This is something that I don't think we take into consideration. It hits hard. It hits
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It does.
It's definitely difficult, and it's difficult. So I'm not gonna like take away like the difficulty that you feel when you go through it, but I do have to say the lack of the concept of social status in Canada is nice, because again, like I don't know, like it's the same. I'm going to speak from my experience, but social status is a bigger deal where I come from than it is here.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm so glad that it's not a bigger deal here, because what it does is that on a daily basis, I'm not judging someone based on their occupation, based on their education. First of all, I'm not judging someone, period. But if I were to make a judgment of someone, not in a negative or positive sense, it's based on who they are and how their personality is. Right.
But Wallet, absolutely. And this is such an attractive and beautiful side of Canada. This is so liberating. This is so amazing. But to arrive at that conclusion, you kind of have to go through your little personal hell. I have to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And my hell lasted for a couple of months. And then I guess this is this adjustment period, because we all come with the baggage of our own cultural values and how it is done in our countries. And then little by little, we all change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's that idea, right? It's the idea that like, how can I work in a coffee shop back home? I would have never done that, right? But it's the idea that why not? Because if no one worked in a coffee shop, we won't have coffee shops, and we kind of need them, don't we? We like
Yeah,
them, don't we? At
I
7 a.m. when you're
definitely like my coffee, that's for sure.
right at 7 a.m. when you're sleepy and you're too lazy, or on your way to work, you're in a rush and you want a cup of coffee in 2 minutes, right? Like the whole transaction to be from start to finish to be done in 2 minutes, and it's like negative 23 degrees outside, right? Like that's my point. Like we start appreciating every job, we start appreciating every profession that makes up society, right?
Yeah.
Because without these jobs, society wouldn't exist, right?
Absolutely. And it's so I like really it's so liberating in Canada. It's like a breath of fresh air. Once you get over this pride, the social status, and just focus on everyday living, and
Yeah,
actually realize that no matter the job, you can enjoy life, you can
yeah,
enjoy your family, you can enjoy the conveniences and the beauty of this. And then it hits you that you've arrived. This is
yeah,
the country for you. I
yeah.
have to be honest with you. That's how it worked with me.
Yeah, 100%. It's when you walk in wearing, like when you go to a store and it doesn't matter what you're wearing, and no one
Yeah,
cares. They're like, "Hey, you're a customer. You buy, you don't buy, that's not a problem, but we're not going to judge based on what you're wearing, what you're going to purchase."
yeah,
Right? We have no judgment. I don't care, like, and obviously it's not that like there's not people out here who are not judgmental based on someone's education or job or race, right? Of course, or gender, right? Like there are people who make judgments on all of that, right? Everyone has biases. I'm not saying like people in Canada don't have biases, but the reduction on biases based on jobs and education is nice.
yeah,
The reduction of social status as a concept is just amazing.
absolutely. Yeah.
100%. So you talked a little bit about the start of your career, but I also know that you're qualified and you have taught IELTS before. So how has that been, and how has that sort of like reflected upon you working as an immigration consultant?
Oh, that's actually kind of motivated me to become an immigration consultant. So I was working as ESL teacher. I taught English to students who were transitioning into colleges and universities in Canada. Basically, international students who were coming first through the pathway program in the language school. And also, I got the job to teach in the continuing education department at George Brown, and I was teaching IELTS and overall the courses, preparation courses before international students and who were already in Canada. They could transition into their major programs. I taught, I think, for 4 years, four,
Yeah.
4, 5, somewhere around there, and I got so lucky. I met amazing people teaching IELTS. I got doctors, nurses, teachers, engineers, you name it. Everyone was in my class, and we were like feeling in the same boat. And I could relate to these people because I had people who said, I'm missing just half a point, half a band to become a nurse, because there were very strict requirements for IELTS for nurses. And basically we spent evenings, and it was like every single class was like a little family. And I got to hear those really amazing immigrant stories. I mean, mine is not amazing, like mine is boring, but people told me their stories, and we shared and talked, and the intercultural sharing of experience, trying to understand each other in terms of where you're coming from, what's your life like, and so on. That was absolutely amazing. And that's when I knew that helping people with IELTS, it's just like kind of halfway, right? I thought of actually, furthering this and helping immigrants to become immigrants in a more meaningful and more, deeper way. So that's basically motivated me to become an immigration consultant. I didn't become immediately immigration consultant. I kind of thought about it and then I forgot about it. And then I thought about it again. Well, come on, it's life, right? And then I thought about it again. And then finally, I kind of plucked up my courage because it meant going back to school, Joel.
Yeah.
That's what it meant. And again, assignments and again, exams. So to become an immigration consultant, it's not like, like this and tomorrow it happens. It's a year-long program and you study and you take courses and you write papers and you do exams. But finally, and you pay a lot of money for that. And then finally, you take a qualifying 3-hour exam where you cannot move and you have to answer as many questions as possible. And then you have to do this. And then you have to do this. And it's like all of this, it's not that easy, right? It's not that easy. And once you're deciding to do this, you have to be also motivated to do that because it's just an investment of your time, investment of your effort, investment of your soul. Really, you gotta love it to do this. And it took a little bit of time for me to make this decision. And I did. And I'm so glad I did. It's such an amazing field to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's the idea that like when you work with immigrants up close, like you realize like it's not easy, right? And like it's not easy, it's a tough journey. And as much as we like to, not we as like us too, but we as a society like to ridicule people who want to immigrate as like you're leaving your country, this, that, or everyone immigrates, what's new, this, that. But it's a difficult decision, right? If someone's making it, chances are there's a lot of work that's going into it. So just, help them out, appreciate it. It's a journey.
I know we immigrants, we are all similar in a certain way. We all left our countries and we came to Canada looking for a better life, different life. Yeah. But every journey is so unique. There's no two immigrant stories that would be identical.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Definitely.
And I feel very privileged to hear those immigrant stories. And I, as an immigrant, can relate to my clients because I can feel their hopes. I can feel their, tremors and their anxiety. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And whatnot. But there's not a single one identical immigration story. There's always something to learn, something to, to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And what you said is a very important point because immigration consulting, whether it's India, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's any big countries where a lot of people immigrate from, has become a big business, right? And it is. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge the industry. But what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of people in this business have never even stepped outside the country, right? And I'm not saying you need to travel the world, right? But at least if you're sending someone to a country, at least go there once, right? Before you say words or get some experience.
Okay. This joke, Wallet, do not confuse immigration with tourism. Okay. Two different things. When you go to another country as a tourist, this is one thing. When you immigrate, it's a whole different journey.
That's what I mean, right? Just don't watch top 10 things to learn about Canada on YouTube, right? When you recommend Canada to someone, do your research and do why it's it's important, right? Why
it's not gonna be like that. No. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, back home, it's like that. A lot of people are just they just. But
you know what?
Yeah.
But you know what I want to say? I kind of wish that in my time when I was immigrating, I kind of wish there were vloggers that would show a little bit. Yes. Now, does it give the full picture? Absolutely not. But does it give you a little bit of an idea? Yes, it does. No matter what you do, no matter what you hear, no matter what you learn, you will not be 100% prepared. Let me just tell you the story. Did I know geography? Yes, I'm an educated person. Did I watch documentaries? Did I know that there's Canada on the map? Yes, I did. Did I have a friend who was living here who would tell me things about Canada? Yes. And yet we come to Canada. Distances. I come from a relatively, well, small or big, I don't know, 1 million people European city. Everything I needed was a 20-minute walk. And on the 20-minute walk, you would have 5 coffee shops, right? You would meet tons of people, and that was it. Hello, Canada. The closest coffee shop is 10 minutes drive. Okay. So distances, the closest grocery store is 10 minutes drive. Guys, not walk, drive. Okay.
Same.
So all of a sudden, and then the whole concept of time, how long does it take you to get somewhere? It disappears because you've been functioning on a certain distances and calculating the time versus distance based on the measurements of the city where you grew up. Now all of a sudden, Canada, nothing can prepare you for this. I'm telling you, I was getting used to it probably for a year. I would get in the car, I would drive, I would calculate my time, and I would still be late constantly. Constantly.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish that in my time I had something to kind of go by at least a little bit, but at the same time, as useful as it is, as fun as it is, nothing can prepare you for reality. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm just saying it's going to be different and unique for you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the vloggers and content creators out there that create this content. They do a really good job of telling you a lot of things. But I mean more for immigration consultants, right? Because a lot of them instill you with hope when you go to them with your papers and your documents. Your career's gonna change and your life's gonna change when you go to Canada on PR so I feel like those people, right? Those people, although they're being optimistic, and that's good, but I just feel like that's when a real immigrant like you being there makes a big difference, right? Because when you're sitting there looking at a profile or you're sitting in a consultation talking to people and you know that it's going to be very difficult for those people that are planning to immigrate to, first of all, be successful, and second of all, get to the level that they forget that they want to get to the level that they are currently, right? Then you will give them honest advice saying, hey, look, I can process your file and this is what it is in front of you, right? But I'm just giving you a realistic picture of how it's going to be. And I feel like that's where people like you should come in. So the vloggers and the content creators are a good start to give you oh, look, this is Canada. Do you like the first trailer? But then sort of talking to you is talking to a movie critic, look, I've lived this. And that's why I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen when you move. So be careful.
Well, yeah, Joel, let's see, but people prefer not to hear that part. They want the trailer, there's a movie, there's a movie trailer. And you know what? I myself prefer trailers. They are much more interesting than the real movie because real movie is too long and too boring.
That's true.
You see, the truth is, we need to manage our expectations, right? We need to manage our expectations, and we also need to be prepared that the journey to immigration is long, is not easy. It's not step 1, step 2, step 3. That step 1 can take 6 months. Step 2 can take another 6 months. Step 3 might take a year or 2. And then step 4 might take 2 or 3 years, and then you appear. But by that time, you're already a local. If you are going through education, route, then in 5 years after the 2-study program and 3-year work permit, you're already a local.
Honestly, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And I feel like it's when you come as a student, it's different, right? Because you have the struggles of an immigrant, whether it's language, whether it's culture, whether it's food, and then you have the struggles of being a student, right? Which is assignments and
it's
labs.
It's double impact.
Yeah. And then you start learning struggles of adulthood, working a job, having time for yourself, or not 9 to 5. So I feel like that's really important. I just you catch up on culture faster, but I feel like culture, at the end, if you get used to the work life or study life or whatever you want to call it, culture catch up can be slower, and I think that's fine, because cities like Toronto and cities like places like Ontario or BC, anywhere where there's high immigration population, you're always going to find things for your culture, as I'm sure you do, as I'm sure
Absolutely.
I
Oh,
do,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a lot of people back home worry about the cultural catch up, which is important, but it's not as like important or difficult as the work life or the education life catch up. I think that's more important. I think that should be focused on like my parents, for example, or even myself. I still listen to Indian music. I still watch Indian movies. I don't have to get away from that. That can be part of me forever, right? But now I know how to work in a Canadian office, or now I know
Oh,
how to write
absolutely. Yeah.
essays and reports as a Canadian student, right? So I think that's more important than learning. Like, I listen to Drake music, that's great, but have you caught up to how you write reports? No. So right. So I think prioritizing that is more important. A lot of us run to the I want to be culturally fit in, but you realize that the city is full of immigrants and everyone has their own culture. You don't have to fit in. You just have to
Yeah, Toronto in this way is
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, you just have to bring your own culture, right? So I think that's pretty amazing. I'm going to change gears a little bit. And since you've been here for a long time, you're an experienced immigrant. Any tips, any advice that you have for immigrants in general? This doesn't have to be students. This doesn't have to be specific to a type of immigrant. But any tips, any advice from your experience that you want to share?
God, I have so many. Where do
Yes,
I begin?
anywhere you like. It
Maybe.
doesn't have to be.
Okay. So, choosing the apartment where to live, where to rent, where to buy. I'm going to speak only from my experience because we came as a family, and my daughter was 6 years old. So first of all, location, location, location. Just like real estate agents say, location, location, location. Choose where you rent your apartment very carefully. So you gotta look where the school is, you gotta look food stores where they are, unless you're buying immediately the car, then you gotta look at bus stop, how far it is, because chances are you will have to be navigating all of this. And again, distances, that because all of this is distances. So we got lucky. My friend rented an apartment for me, and didn't have to deal with that. And she was thinking about all of that. And then at first I didn't realize how great it was. But then here I had one store, here I had another store, literally within walking distance. So I didn't have to take bus all the time, right? And then my daughter's school she was picked up by the school bus. So that was also pretty amazing. So again, that's the first step. Second, your first car, maybe not the best and not the most expensive one. My first car was bought for cash. I think it was 2000. Again, guys, 2008. Okay, please.
Yeah.
2000, and it was some kind of pretty decent Ford, right? And it took us through years, right? And it was such a relief. So maybe your first car shouldn't be the Porsche that you are dreaming about. Maybe not. But hey, if you have the money, be my guest. For us, it was an issue, and we kind of decided, yeah, okay, that used Ford was enough. And we bought it like, I think 2,500. So can you imagine how old it was? But it was running very nicely, and it was very cheap in service. So that's that. What else? Tip and tricks. Grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it goes in your countries, but in my country, on my way from work, I would pass 5 grocery stores, and I would be able to pick up every day whatever food I needed, right? So there was no concept, we go, we buy, we bring home, we kind of do something with it, right? And then we cook, take it out. Now here it took me a while to realize that if I don't shop ahead and basically plan my meals for the whole family, what I'm gonna cook ahead of time for the week, I would be driving back and forth between those stores like forever. And remember, again, distance equals time, right? So I had to learn to make a list, to plan what I'm buying, what I'm cooking. And that took a while to figure out. Well, not that long. I think in 2 months, I was exhausted enough driving back and forth between the stores because I forgot something, or because, oh, what are we going? We ran out of this. Doesn't happen anymore. Now I go to Costco once per 2 weeks, and I get everything I need, and I don't set the food in any store for 2 weeks, literally. That's it.
Yeah, that's how it is. Costco is
It's
awesome.
very different. It's very different. And I remember when we came and my friend met us and she showed us her grocery shopping. I'm like, why are they doing this? Can't you just go tomorrow to the store? And she's
Yeah,
like, who has the time to do this? I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I guess. And then after 2 months, I was exhausted. I'm like, okay, how do you do this? Let me figure it out.
yeah,
And then it was like the whole new world. I promise.
yeah. Essentially, planning your groceries, especially in the winter when you don't want to go out
Yeah.
again and again,
You don't want
especially
to
in
be
the
driving
winter.
back and forth.
Yeah, in the winter, right now there's Christmas break. You're gonna run out of stock. Like, why do you want to do that? Like, it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, you
Like
gotta
going,
plan.
yeah, going to like a grocery store like right near any big holiday is gonna be like very crowded. Just don't do that, right? Just plan your groceries, make a list. Yeah, daily
Well, you
groceries,
can. Well, you can. Some
but it's
people
just too
actually
much effort.
doing. Yeah, it is. It is. So basically planning. So these three are the biggest tips,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. And honestly, like that's the other thing, right? Between work and studying, especially if you're a student, even if you're not, you're getting used to the climate, you're getting used to weather. In winter, it gets dark at 4 p.m., right? So it's like before you're even home, if before you're even done work, it's dark. Forget doing groceries and doing something out there and going cooking or something. Like, it's you're
Planning,
done.
planning, planning, time management, right?
Yeah, time management is very important. Getting groceries. The car thing, I just want to go back to that point and add something. Please do not buy a new car. I do not, I really don't understand. Unless you're going to lease it, that's different. If you're leasing it, that's
I'm
different.
leasing. I'm leasing
Yeah, there you
currently.
go. Right. So if you're leasing it, that's fine. That's completely different. But if you're buying a car, just buy a used car. I know, again, I don't know how it is in Ukraine, but in India, a used car as a concept is very like it's not as common. It's not even close. Like it's less than 20%. Like that's how like less it is. And over here, it's upwards of 60, right? It's
Yeah.
upwards of like 80%, maybe 40, like right? Like the idea is that like because cars get maintained here longer, right? Roads are better.
Roads are better. Roads
Sure.
are better.
That's the main thing, right? Like cars are maintained here longer, roads are better. Secondly, heat usually is not really good for any machine, and it's a colder country, so I think
Oh,
it
come on.
works.
You as engineer, you know that. I wouldn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, that's what I mean, right?
I'm
Like
like,
heat,
weather in the car? What do you
yeah,
mean?
that weather deterioration happens, and I think cars just like work that way better here. Buy used car. My dad had the same inhibitions before we bought our first used car till we showed him a used car, and we literally told him, point at me a reason why you would call this a used car, not a new one. Like if I didn't tell you, if I just brought you to the showroom and showed you this car,
Would you
what,
know, right?
how would you point out? Would you be able to tell? Right? Unless if you looked at the odometer. If you looked at the odometer, then yes, sure, you'll be able to tell. But other than that, right? And there is no reason, right? It lasts you way longer, right? We bought our car in 2017. It has nothing to it right now that we even need to touch it, right? And yeah, you pay less money, you save money. Again, depreciating investment, where I know I don't mean to turn this into a finance podcast, right? But depreciating investment and appreciating investment. Try not to put your money in depreciating investments,
Yeah.
right?
If that was still English, that's great.
Yeah, it
Because I
was.
didn't get a word of it.
No,
The
no.
way I approach cars was like this. I like, I don't like,
Yeah,
color is okay, gas is okay. It
yeah,
has to be good on gas. Cute color. We are done.
yeah, exactly,
So
right?
that's my approach. Appreciation. Like I said, if that was still English, I didn't get it.
It
But
was, it
that's
was,
okay.
it was. I'm sure. Basically, for anyone who didn't get it, what I'm trying to say is this: when you buy anything, if you buy a new car or used car, you lease it, its value decreases over the period of time. But if you buy
The
some,
moment you leave the parking lot of the
it
dealership.
decreases, right? But if you buy something like, let's say, like if you invest or if you get a degree, right, in your education, if you buy a,
That's a good
yeah,
bet. Even if
yeah,
you have to take the money, to borrow the money for that, that's a
yeah.
good debt because it's working for you, not
Exactly.
against.
So good debt and bad debt. That's what I meant. Like, in the sense that like a good debt, like a degree or even a laptop, right? Like this, like it's computer is going to help you through education and work. So this is an appreciating investment. Not that you're going to sell the laptop and get your money back in the literal sense of the word, but is it adding value
Like
to
getting
your
your
life?
money worth, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Mhm.
adding value to your life. So
So
just
I
think,
learned something new here.
there you go. So just add that
Live
for
and
that.
learn.
And like yeah, what Olivia said, just a fun fact for people. So 2005. To $2,500 back in 2008 would be valued to around $3,200 today. So yeah, people buy cars for that money today. So yes, that is
Really?
definitely, yeah. Well, starter cars, right? Like first cars, usually you can get a car for that money before tax,
Mm.
right? But yeah, again, people don't spend money on a new car. That's get over that inhibition. It's the same inhibition that people have with the status thing that we were speaking about earlier, right? New car, used cars, bad status. No, it's not. It's really not.
It
But
doesn't matter.
yeah, it really doesn't matter.
It's
Okay.
four wheels that will take you from point A to point B. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So now that we've talked about you moving back then and things now, do you want to talk about how immigration as a concept, as a journey, as anything has changed from 2008 when you immigrated to now?
Again, day and night. When we applied, I think we applied around 2003. Yeah. Then
Wow.
no, I think I'm lying. Sorry. I think we applied around 2004,
Mhm.
and it was a paper-based application. There was no express entry. There was no computer-based anything. Okay. So basically, what I did, I think my friend sent me the PDFs of the application forms. I filled them out, everything by myself. So basically, we did everything by myself. Of course, information was on the internet, and I went and I followed every single step from the CIC website. But I have to be honest, guys, with you. If my English wasn't what it was, I would be done for. So I followed every single step, and I completed all my papers by myself. I put them into a nice envelope, and then I got on the train and I went to another city, to Canadian embassy, and I stood in line to submit my application. Okay. And then after 3 years, basically we forgot about it. No, you don't forget about this, but we just knew that there was no communication, there would be nothing. And then we were called for an interview. So again, we got on the train and we got to another city, so train overnight, and we went for the interview. So that was the process back then. And then we got our PR, right? So that story is actually pretty funny and cool, but that's the story for a different podcast, but for a different time. But today, from the convenience of your own home, you can you can create express entry profile. There are instructions step by step how to do anything and everything. There's bloggers, vloggers, but most importantly, you have access to immigration professionals on Zoom. I have clients in Ukraine, in Russia, in Ecuador, in India, in Nigeria, right? Zoom call and you get immigration professional. We didn't have any of that, right? 2004. And today I feel like if you want to immigrate, you also have options. There are more options. At that time, nobody was applying for study permit, right? Nobody was coming to Canada to study. 2004, it was unheard of, right? Today, it's literally mass, at least in my country. I should be say it was unheard of because nobody in my environment, nobody would even think of applying for a study permit to study in Canada. That was very, very strange and unusual. So today, there are so many options, so many pathways. As long as you know all of them, or at least some of them, and you can figure out how it applies to you, knowledge is power, right? Then it's just much easier, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of information that you can access from sitting at home.
Yeah,
Internet has become your best friend in
yeah,
terms of accessing that information, whether it is our Instagram page or it is this YouTube channel itself. Or you're getting information here when you meet with Olivia, like she said, virtually through Zoom. You're getting your work done through there. We take clients all around the world, like she's already said. So yeah, that's definitely changed from immigration. But what else is, and I'm sure most of you listening know this, and Olivia knows this, the competition has changed, right? Because 10 years ago, America like America as in the United States was still a viable immigration option. But right now, immigration to America is next to impossible, right? And Canada has become the hotspot for immigrants to come. So it's getting very competitive by the
It,
day.
it is. Yeah,
And
it's true. See, at that time, I don't think I even knew under which program we immigrated. I just knew that I had a master's degree and my husband had a skill and also university degree. I spoke the language, he didn't. So we kind of combined all of this and that's how it went on, right? So that was pretty cool. I don't think I even at that time, I didn't even have any points. Did points exist at that time? I don't think I even, realized that there was some kind of selection based on something. Does that make sense? I'm sure there were points. I'm sure all of this was there, but it's just I didn't realize in the back of my head that it was that. But it kind of we had very good chances, right? We were over 30, both of us, and but the education and my language in combination, it just played the role basically.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. And that's why it's like really important to just make sure that you're more aware, you're learning more information, and that's why again, that's why
And
we
I just want to
exist.
say, guys, masters in any country is masters. Just want to remind you, okay? Just saying, masters is masters from any country. It's the same thing, I promise.
Yep, there you go. There you go. She has a master's. I don't, so obviously, like you have to listen to her. And I
It
do
has
agree.
exactly the same value.
Master's is definitely valued higher. It definitely helped my family clear. My mom also has a master's from back home. She's an
Exactly.
MBA in HR, and that's the reason. That's the degree that got our file cleared,
Mm,
right? So it definitely helps. She's definitely not wrong.
yeah,
I remember my dad telling me that it wouldn't have worked if it was just bachelor's for both of them, but because
exactly,
she had a
100%.
master's, our file cleared. So yes, master's is a master's. That definitely helps.
Yeah, but your parents were also over 30, no? When they came
Yes,
to Canada.
yes, yes, yes,
Exactly.
yes, yes, yeah. They
So
were.
for exactly. So the moment you have this age factor and after 30, you start losing points for age, right? That's when you need to compensate with something. Now, in my case, I wasn't thinking even about immigration when I was doing my education, right? Back in Ukraine. It's just came in handy.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go, right? And it just helps out a lot. And I would also say that like if you're over like your master's definitely helps and it's a big adding point, but also your job level and NOC code. And yeah, we can knock and we can get into details of that,
Absolutely,
but it matters so
absolutely. Yes,
much.
the qualifications, the job duties, everything matters today. Everything is literally sometimes by point. You can make it or break it into the express entry draw.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very competitive. And also more and more people have that kind of level of education. More and more people are learning English and have English at that level. More and more people are immigrating with those really cool, high skilled jobs, right? So more and more, and competition is, yeah, it's there. It's
Yeah.
true.
That being said, that was pretty much all the questions I have for Olivia. Olivia, do you want to add something to the people who are listening? Just to let you guys know, this is the first edition of the podcast. We're going to have more where we will bring guests who are immigrants themselves and they'll be sharing their journey through this format where there's less of a time restriction. We don't want to make it 10 minutes. We want to make sure they're able to tell their story. We have students in mind, professionals, people who are studying right now, or people who've just finished their degrees. Some of them actually done their journey from student to
From
PR.
student to PR, yeah,
So they're going to talk about that, and yeah, I'm sure Olivia's excited to bring them all to you.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, and Olivia was super excited about this format because this doesn't restrict us to a time limit of a video that we want to make. We can speak for longer, and all of you guys can come back and watch it at any point, right? I just want to bring one note. So we did post our video right before this, putting light on information on express entry, and I'm looking at analytics right now. That's why there's this light on my face. 88.6% of you haven't subscribed who saw the video. So if you guys could please subscribe, it's completely free. It doesn't take anything from you. Every time you post a new video, it'll just pop up on your feed. And we're planning a whole series on every province and PNPs and methods of immigration. And we have a lot of content coming up. So if you could just subscribe so you could get all that content, it'd be awesome. Thank you so much. Olivia, this is all I had for you. Any notes that you want to add?
Basically, I just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season and happy new year. And thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. And we are hoping to bring not just boring immigration related topics. I also would like to bring some a little bit more fun, just like Joel had mentioned, real immigrant stories who will share their experiences and so on, right? So subscribe, like, and we hope you come back and everybody will get something for themselves, something interesting. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.